This particular killing, the killing of Mr. George Floyd, is a spark that ignited a firestorm across the country of people saying enough is enough. Well, millions of Americans are protesting all across the country demanding justice for George Floyd. He's a 46-year-old man in Minnesota who had his life taken at the hands of a police officer who, despite his cries and pleads for his life and the fact that he couldn't breathe, slowly died on a street corner with a police officer kneeling into his neck. And it's just the latest high-profile case of Black men or women dying at the hands of law enforcement or white vigilantes. At the same time as we have the killing of George Floyd in Minneapolis, we also have a killing of Breonna Taylor in Louisville.
Louisville police shot and killed 26-year-old Breonna Taylor in her apartment during what her family calls a botched drug raid.
Then we also have Ahmaud Arbery, who was a young man who was just jogging.
Ahmaud Arbery, he was a 25-year-old Black man chased and killed by at least 2 white men as he was jogging in a Georgia neighborhood on February 23rd.
And so this latest killing has sparked protests nationwide and has drawn parallels to similar incidents that we've seen in our nation's history. Protesters we're talking to all across the country and sometimes even the world are saying this just feels different because look at the times.
As coronavirus tears an unforgiving path across the country, numbers show it is especially devastating to one group, African Americans.
Black Americans are a third of all coronavirus cases and COVID-19 deaths, even though they make up only 14% of the US population. So they're disproportionately contracting and dying of this virus. And why that is? Because Black Americans are also more likely to have frontline jobs. They're more likely to live in highly densely populated areas. And this virus exposed long-standing existing inequities in our healthcare and labor system that had Black Americans disproportionately going back to work, while their white counterparts, at least those in mostly white militias, are storming state capitals armed with guns and rocket launchers, demanding the government reopen. And so as states are reopening, that's disproportionately putting Black Americans at further risk of contracting this virus. So you have a pandemic, you have an economic crisis where 1 in 6 Black Americans have lost their job on account of this pandemic. That is just essentially a perfect storm. We have a president who has made it quite clear that his loyalties lie with police unions.
He knows I love the cops. He knows that, and so does everyone else.
Even in his rhetoric during these protests, many critics point to specifically a tweet referencing when protesters start looting, we start shooting. That has racist connotations and a racist history dating all the way back to a Miami police sheriff who used that same phrase to justify his treatment of Black, particularly African-American and Haitian immigrants at the time in Miami, and using excessive force against them. For the president of the United States to invoke a racist trope, that's no coincidence for most, including when the president also tweeted, "It's MAGA night," to respond to protesters who were at the White House. Many people see this as, well, exactly what a lot of his presidency has been indicating: call to arms, dog whistles. And so he's calling to arms all of those who see equality and see diversity as a affront to their livelihood, and they're responding in kind. One thing in particular that I think is interesting when I speak to protesters in the field is oftentimes I'll ask, why are you here? And before I can even get an explanation, I'll get a name. Not George Floyd, but I'll get a name of someone we've heard before. I hear people say, I should have been here for Sandra Bland. I should have been here for Mike Brown. I should have been here for Trayvon Martin. I should have been here for Seville Smith. I should have been here for Philando Castile. The list goes on and on and on. So for many, they see, where is that progress? Where is a recognition and acknowledgement that this has been an institutional and foundational issue with this country? And until we're willing to call that out, more people will continue to join this call, continue to join this fight. And even it's resonating globally. There are parallels to communities of color, to disenfranchised groups, and those who are joining the call, those who can see themselves in a man who died at the hands of law enforcement in Minneapolis, Minnesota, all across the world, are saying, not this time. Enough is enough.